Hey there! In this video, you will get a bunch of tips to play with less tension, to play guitar, just to live with less tension. And what does that even mean? It means that everything will be so much easier for you. This is a compilation video of a bunch of short form videos that I've put together on this particular subject. Before we get into it, if you would like to, I also have a book on classical guitar ergonomics. What are ergonomics? It's how you use your body when you're working, in this case, on the guitar. So if you look at the link below in the description or the top comment, then you can get that. It's a nice little ebook with a bunch of tips, guidelines for making sure that you don't injure yourself and to play with less tension. So it's just all so much more fluid and graceful. And with that, let's dive into some tips and tricks for playing with less tension. Here's a tip to make practice so much easier for you. So when we're practicing, it's really easy because we're concentrating to really get tight in the face, to clench down and really be hard in our bodies and everything. So one of the ways that we can just release that very quickly is just to give a little smile and maybe just a So if we're playing something and it just seems really hard, we can just smile, even if it's sad music, and don't just keep the same tension and just do a grimace smile like when you're posing for your holiday pictures, but instead actually just release all the tension and smile just like, this doesn't really matter anyway. And then you can just feel less tension in your playing, and you do that. Of course, it'll come back as you start to concentrate again, but as a quick release, it's just a little trick you can do in your practice to remind yourself to just release. The great soccer player Pele once said that everything is practice. And I love that idea, but what does that actually mean? How do you actually make everything practice? Going through your day, going to work, doing all of your stuff around the house, how do you actually make that into guitar practice? One of the best ways is to observe natural things happening around you and notice how they work. So cats are great for this. When a cat lays down, they completely relax. They kick their feet out and their feet are completely relaxed. Can you do this as well? So can you practice if you're just sitting there? Can you actually be there like a cat? Michelangelo famously watched birds flying and looked at how their wings worked. You can look at the natural movement of things. You can also look at the amount of tension, just like the cat, and then notice when you're brushing your teeth, when you're washing the dishes, how much tension are you using? How much is in your face? How much is in your hands? And that can make everything practice because that awareness will then come onto the guitar. Here's a physical tip for you, and that is to think of your throat being very open. I have a real problem with this. You can lock your tongue into the back of your throat. You can tighten your throat to where, and it makes you feel like you're maybe in control, but it creates a lot of tension all around your neck. And then also, then that goes into your shoulders and everything else. So what you can do is imagine that your throat is very open. Just a big old clear channel, just a big pipe going down there. And if you'll do that, you might notice that your lower back might release, your chest might open a little bit. It just releases a lot of tension. If you can do this and practice this, release your eyes, it can just have these chain effects that create a much nicer physical environment for playing your guitar and for just moving freely with less tension and more control. So open your throat. Eileen asked the question on one of our member calls, how can I reduce tension in my playing? And so tension, typically when it's a problem, it's built up over time. There's a little bit of tension and then that tension goes over into the next note and the next note and the next chord, which add more tension and more tension to where all of a sudden we're redlining with tension. And so instead of that, the way to reduce tension is to build in breaks of tension constantly. Ideally, between each note, we can release a little bit of tension. Not all the tension, because there is work to do. We have to press down the strings, we have to move our hands to make the sound, we have to sit up and hold the guitar. So there has to be some, but what we can do is just release any excess tension. If we practice slowly, then we can practice between chords, between notes. We can practice just letting it go, just like water pouring over us. Just let it go for a second, even if it's keeping a little bit to do the work. Our neck is one of these upstream things that if we're tensing up our neck, we're also tensing up our shoulders and our back and our arms and our hands. So if you want to play more fluidly, if you want to play more comfortably, with less strain, with less effort, one of the ways to get there is to free your neck. And you can do this anytime. You can do it right now as you're watching this video. You can just free your tongue and your neck and just think, my neck is very soft and free. Whatever that means, you don't have to do anything. You just have to say, my neck is free, and just let it release. If you're really holding your neck forward with the forward neck syndrome, then that's gonna get in the way of that. But if you're holding your head up, you can free that neck, and that's going to make it much easier on the rest of your body to play guitar much more beautifully. Here's a body tip for you. When you're playing, keep your ears over your shoulders. If they're sticking way out, then you've got this head forward thing, and then your muscles in your neck are gonna tense up to hold up your head. Your whole body's gonna suffer for that. If you can keep your ears over your shoulders, more or less, keep your weight going down into the seat, it's going to be a better sitting position for you. Even if you're playing non-classical style, it's still a great way to think about your body. Just keep your ears over your shoulders. To get a better grip on your guitar playing, release your grip in other parts of your life. So if you're eating with a fork, see if you can use just the absolute appropriate tension for the fork. Instead of over squeezing it or under squeezing it, notice your grip and notice your attention. Same thing if you're holding your phone. Anything that you're touching, your steering wheel, anything, notice your grip and see if you can make that as appropriate as possible so that it's as much as needed, but no more. It's not less than needed, it's not more than needed, but you can play with softening your grip throughout your day, and that's going to translate into more control and better accuracy on the guitar. So soften your grip. Here's a tip to relieve some excess tension in your playing. One of the things that you can do, and you can practice this anywhere, is to release the back of your tongue. So ideally your tongue just lays over your back teeth, and if you can release that and be very soft with your tongue, and then also be soft with your eyes, that release of muscle tension goes into your neck, into your shoulders, all the way down your arms, and then everything that you play is going to use less tension. It's one of those upstream effects that if we can release the back of your tongue, release your tongue, don't keep it hard in your mouth, but instead let it smooth out, you're gonna play with less tension. Give it a shot. A lot of guitarists I talk to talk about shoulder pain. We're playing and then our shoulders get really sore. There's a few different things that this could be. The first off is if you're not playing in a hard seat, if you're in a very soft seat, like sitting on the couch, then your muscles have to work extra hard just to hold yourself up. It seems like it would be comfortable sitting on a big cushy couch to play, but actually it creates a lot more effort for the muscles just to get to hold up the hands and get to the guitar. So playing on a harder chair, still a little bit of padding is nice, can really help. The other thing is, are you raising your shoulders? And it could be that without even knowing it, you're just like bringing that up so that whenever you start focusing on something, there's this tension that rises. And so just be aware of that and say, can I just release that? Am I raising my shoulders, number one, and do I have to do that? A lot of that comes from the neck, which also comes from the back of the tongue. So releasing these and releasing your eyes also can help with that as well. So good luck on having a nice, comfortable shoulder. Here's a tip for you to just feel better, play with less tension, and just have an easier time on everything. It also quiets the mind, and that is just to soften your eyes. Oftentimes, if we're looking at something really, this pin spot vision where we're looking very seriously at something, we get this really tight face. Instead, just loosen your eyes, soften your forehead, all of this, and just make it really soft. Use wide focus, so just notice the periphery, like how far can you see over to the periphery? And that is a way to quiet your mind, to settle in, to relax, and to use more appropriate tension on the guitar. And it just feels really good. You don't even need the guitar to do it. You can do it anytime. Soften your eyes for a better life. If you're ever wound up, here's a wonderful little trick you can use to calm yourself down. It triggers the parasympathetic nervous system, which means you just feel like everything is perfectly fine and going good. This is called the double breath. So you take a nice big breath, and at the end you just snag a little bit more. And then slowly exhale through your mouth. Do this a few times and you will feel this wave of relaxation come over your entire body. It's amazing how well this works. You can do it while walking if you need to, sitting anywhere. Big breath, snag the extra, so as big as you can, and then snag a little bit more, and then fully exhale it. This is also really good in the night if you ever want to get to sleep. It can help you relax to get to sleep as well. So just one of those tools for good living. We practice for a few minutes a day, maybe if we're lucky up to a few hours if we're really into it, but most of the time we're still not playing the guitar. What can we do the rest of that time? One of the best things that we can do that will inform our guitar playing and make it better is to just notice how we're holding tension the rest of the time when we're brushing teeth, when we're eating, when we're just sitting there watching Netflix, whatever it happens to be doing, cooking, driving, whatever it is. Then we can just notice, how am I holding tension? How am I holding it in my face? How am I sitting? How am I holding it in my shoulders and my arms, hands? Whenever I write something, whenever I hold anything, how much tension am I putting into this? And is there any of that I could just release and do this more easily? It's a pretty nice way of living. Here's a tip you can use to just play with less overall tension, that's just to ask yourself, as you're playing, can I just use half the energy to play this? If I'm just playing a chord, can I use half the energy to play this chord? To just even sit here, to put my fingers on the guitar, to hold the instrument, to just hold my arm up. Can I use half the energy that I otherwise would to do that? And then ask yourself again, well, how about half of that? And see how many times you can actually half the energy. And every time that you'll feel the energy going, oh, well, there's some tension you can just release right there. Ah, that's easier. And then the next time, and then the next time, and eventually you won't be able to notice it anymore. But you'll be using way less tension in your music simply by asking yourself to use half the energy. All right, so that was a bunch of tips and tricks for playing with less tension when you're playing guitar, when you're not playing guitar. And it's a process, it happens over time. You won't do it all at once, but keep working on it. If you would like to look down in the description of this video or down in the first comment, you can get the link to an ebook on playing with less tension, just using your body better when you're on the guitar, things to avoid, things to look for, and that can also help you to just play with more ease and avoid injury. All right, thank you so much for watching. See you soon.